Hello, welcome to lesson 3A, Race Across Miami. Yes, today we're going to talk about transportation. Okay, so in grammar, we have comparatives and superlatives as a review. In vocabulary, we're going to learn some transportation, phrasal verbs, expressions about it. And in pronunciation, we will focus on the sounds of sh, j, and sh, plus linkings. Okay, let's get started here. Race across Miami. To start with, we have vocabulary and speaking. And this one will be about transportation. So here, think of four different forms of public transportation in towns and cities in your country. To start, focus here. Do you know the difference between cities and towns? Hey teacher, aren't they the same thing? Nope, they aren't. So towns, you think of small cities, like cities from the towns, small towns from the countryside, for example. And cities, they are the big cities, okay? So let's get this way. Four different forms of public transportation. Can you think of? Okay, so keep them. And now we're going to vocabulary bank to see if you got any of them. Let's see here. Transportation. Public transportation. Match the words and pictures. Here we are on page 155. You are going to match these words here with these pictures in here. So take a look at them. Can you name any of them? Now let's try to do it with these words in here. So take a look at them, pause the video, and please try to do it. Let's put it this way so that you can have a better feel. Okay. All right, you're finished? Great, because now I'm going to play the audio. You're going to check the numbers in each column, okay? And as you do that, make sure to pause and repeat the words, okay? Let's focus here. Can you see the transcript here beside the words? Pay attention to them so you can have a clear sound for the words here and make sure you're doing the right pronunciation, okay? Let's go to it.
2.2 Transportation, Public Transportation and Vehicles. 2,
Bus,
3,
Freeway,
9,
light rail,
1,
Platform,
8,
scooter,
4,
Subway,
6,
train,
7,
Truck,
5,
van,
Great. Okay, so I hope you got them right. Here now, let's pay attention to some differences here. Subway and underground, we have two words for metro. Subway is what Americans usually use, so American English subway, and underground for the British English, okay? We also have a transport here which is not so commonly used. It's the light rail. This one here, the light rail, okay? So the light rail here in number 9, it is a kind of transport which is a mixture of a bus and a tram. Tram's like a trolley, bondinho, okay? It's a mixture of bonde and a bus, e ônibus, especially in the structure. So this transport usually transits on the street, but on rails, okay, like on the track. All right. It's a very fast and good way for you to transit around the city, okay, around the streets, through the streets. All right, very good. Now, let's see. Could you try now to cover the words? Okay, so let's go. Now, make sure you don't look at your book, okay? Pause the video and try to say which transport or things we have in each of these pictures. All right, good job. So, moving on the road. Here now we're going to learn some compound nouns. Compound nouns are two nouns together where the first noun describes the second. For example, a child's seat. It is a seat for child, for a child. A bus stop is a place for buses to stop, and etc. Okay? In compound nouns, the first noun is stressed more strongly than the second. There are many compound nouns related to road travels, and we are going to learn a few of them now. So, starting with this, letter A, completed compound nouns. So, let's take a look at the words we have here. We have belt, camera, crash, hour, jam, lane, light, limit, stand, station, ticket, walk, work, and zone. And here we have the pictures. Like, for example, number one, it's a bicycle. We need to look for one word here that we can use to complete. So, bicycle lane, which is the famous ciclovia, okay? Bicycle lane or bike lane, as we can also hear. Now, for example, here, the car. Pause the video and try to find, okay, a word for car to complete here. Right? Now, you're going to do the same for all the other ones. We have here cross. Number 4, we have a gas. 5, parking. 6, pedestrian. 7, we have the road. Rush, seat, speed, speed again, taxi, traffic, and here traffic. So pause the video and answer the others. You got it? Let's check your answers now.
2.3. On the road. 1,
Bicycle lane.
2,
Car crash.
3,
Crosswalk.
4,
Gas station.
5,
Parking ticket.
6,
Pedestrian zone.
7,
Road work.
8,
Rush hour.
9. Seat belt. 10.
Speed camera.
11. Speed limit. 12.
Taxi stand.
13. Traffic light. 14.
Traffic jam.
Excellent. If you have any questions, make sure to use a dictionary for more information. Okay? So now, how about challenging yourself? Look at the images and try to say without looking at what you wrote. All right? Perfect. So try to remember these compound nouns, ok? Compound nouns são substantivos compostos. Now, let's move on to number 3. How long does it take? This is something that we ask a lot in our daily routine. So, how long does it take to know about the duration of time that somebody or something takes to do a specific activity? So the question we usually use is, how long does it take? It takes about an hour to get from Princeton to New York City by train. In this case here, I am asking about the activity itself. So, how long does it take to get from one place to the other? It takes about an hour. Okay. Here, when you're talking about, we use take with a person plus the time in order to get to a place when we want to talk about the duration of a trip. So, for example, it took me more than an hour to get to work yesterday. So here we usually use the object pronouns, okay? It took me, it took her, it took them, it took us more than an hour to get to work yesterday. The question we have here, how long does it take you or your brother, your sister, okay, to get to school? It takes him or it takes her, it takes me 10 minutes only. It's real close to my house. Okay? So try to practice this. How about writing 3 sentences so you can use it to practice? Okay? Now, answer these questions for me so we can practice. How long do you get to work? How long do you get to school? How long does it take? How long does it take to get from your house to the center of town? Okay, so please answer these questions. Great. Now, let's learn some phrasal verbs about transports. Learn these phrasal verbs connected with transportation and travel. We set off at 7 o'clock in the morning to try to avoid the traffic. So, set off means leave on a trip. So, what time do you leave on a trip? Do you hit the road? We set off at 7 o'clock in the morning. Okay. I arrive at 8:15. Sorry, I arrive at 8:15. Do you think you could pick me up at the station? So pick somebody up means to go somewhere in a car and get him or her. I got on the wrong bus and I ended up on the opposite side of town. So if you say I ended up doing something, okay, it means that you find yourself in a place or in a situation that you did not expect. Como se fosse, eu findei fazendo isso, né? Eu acabei fazendo isso, but more of a more in a situation that you really didn't expect to be. We're running out of gas. Let's stop at the next gas station. So if you are running out of something, it means that you don't have or that you have very little of it. So here in this case, finish, you're running out of gas. It's finishing your supply of something. So you don't have more of it or you have very, very little of it. We need to stop and fill up. Okay, fill up the tank. Watch out or look out. You're going to crash. If you say if you tell somebody to watch out or look out, you mean, hey, be careful or pay attention to something very dangerous, something that is going to happen. Okay, so watch out, look out, be careful. All of them are same things. Okay, excellent, excellent. So let's go back to page 24 so we can continue here. Now we're going to start working on pronunciation. Let's look at the pictures. What are the words and the sounds? Listen and repeat.
2.4.
Shower. Sh.
Jazz. J.
Chess. Ch.
Okay, so these are the three sounds we are going to work on now. Could you please write these words from this list here in each of these columns? For example, adventure. This letter T has the sound of sh, j, or ch. Think about and write all these words in each column. You're done? Now let's check your answers.
2.5.
Shower. Sh. Crash. Rush. Station.
Jazz. J. Bridge. Dangerous. Traffic jam.
Chess. Ch. Adventure. Catch. Each.
You got them right? Okay, so important. It's very common for us Brazilians to confuse the sound of ch and sh. Okay, so let's be careful to them. Whenever you have any questions about the sound, check the pronunciation of the word in a dictionary. Okay. All right. Now, listen again and practice saying these words. Play again. Here, important to know that on page 167, you have the sound bank you can go to, and there you can check the other common words that usually have these same sounds that we are working on. All right, so now you have this activity here. Listen to the pairs of words. Can you hear the difference? Practice saying them.
2.6. 1. A.
cheap,
B.
jeep,
2. A.
chain,
B.
Jane,
3. A.
choke,
B.
joke,
4. A.
ship,
B.
chip,
5. A.
shoes,
B.
choose,
6. A.
wash,
B.
watch.
Excellent. Okay, so as you can see, they are very similar. It's important to understand when we usually use them. This sound of ch as in chess, it's more common for ch, for example. And j, it's more common for the letter J and sometimes in letter G as well. Okay? The sound of sh is more common for sh, sh, okay? And ch, it's more common for ch, as I previously said. Now, I would like to ask you to listen and circle the words you hear. So look at all of these words here. For example, number 1, circle the word that you hear if you hear cheap or jeep. Let's go.
2.7. 1.
jeep,
2.
Chain,
3.
joke,
4.
chip,
5.
shoes,
6.
watch.
Okay, listen again if necessary. Now, I am going to play to show you the answers. So here in number 1 we have Jeep, letter B, chain, letter A, joke, letter B. And here we have chip as ship, chip as B. 5 we have shoes, letter A, and 6 we have watch, letter B. Okay. All right. Now you are going to listen and write 5 sentences. So come on, take a paper, or if you see any spaces, maybe you can use this space here in blank. Write down 5 sentences. Any important instruction on how to do this listening activity would be listen all the 5 sentences. Don't do anything. Listen to them. Try to understand their meaning. Then you're going to play once again, and this time you're going to listen, pause, and write down. Do this to all the 5 sentences. Don't rewind. Don't listen to again, okay? Try to listen and then write down the word, the phrase. And the last time you listen to, the third time, you're going to listen and write down and check what you wrote and then make the proper corrections. Let's go.
2.8. 1.
do you like potato chips,
2.
I'm going to wash it.
3.
You choose.
4,
Don't joke about it.
5,
Is it cheap?
Okay, so let's follow the instructions. Pause the video or listen again. Wonderful. Now let's check your answers. Do you like potato chips? 2. I'm going to wash it. 3. You choose. 4. Don't joke about it. 5. Is it cheap? All right. Hope you got them. All right. Now, let's go on to reading and listening activity. Here, you are going to read about a race that the car show Top Gear organized across the U.S. state of Florida. Read the introduction and answer these questions. Let's read the introduction here. Top Gear Challenge. What's the fastest way to get across Florida? For this reading exercise, I will read it for you. Underline the words that are new or whose pronunciation are difficult. Okay, it's difficult to pronounce, and then focus on learning them. Okay, so let's start. On the Top Gear, a very popular TV series about cars and driving, they decided to organize a race across Florida to find the quickest way to cross a busy state. The idea was to start from Miami and the southwestern part of the tip of Florida, and to finish the race at the southernmost point of the U.S., Key West, a trip of 160 miles. 3 possible forms of transportation were chosen: a motorboat, a car, and a combination of transportation. One of the show's hosts, Rutledge Wood, took the motorboat, and his colleague Adam Ferreira took the car, a 2010 Lotus Evora. Tanner Faust took different kinds of transportation. His trip involved getting a taxi to the airport, where he flew in a seaplane. Then he rented a scooter. They set off from Jones Boat Yard on the Miami River. And then we're going to see what happened on this race. Did you understand the introduction? Please check out the words that you don't know. All right, here we have 4 questions for you to answer about this introduction. Where do they have to go from? Where to? 2. What are the 3 methods of transportation they're going to use? 3. Which one do you think would be the fastest? Why? 4. In what order do you think the other 2 will arrive? And why? Okay, so pause and write down your answers. Okay, so just checking your understanding for question number 1. They go from Jones Boat Yard on the Miami River to the southernmost point in the U.S., Key West. Okay, and for question number 2, a motorboat, a car, and a combination of transportation, including a taxi, an airplane, and a scooter. These were the methods of transportation that were used. Questions number 3 and 4 are personal, your opinion. All right, so now let's hit here the text. Uh, you you are going to follow me here to letter B. Now read about the trips by motorboat and car. Do you still think your predictions in 3A are right? Let's see if you were right. Here, let's start with Rutledge in the motorboat. So here, this is Rutledge in this motorboat, okay? His trip began in the Miami River. For the first hour, there was a speed limit of 7 miles an hour because of the enforced no wake zone in the river. Here, there's no wake zone. We have a glossary here below that you can check. A no wake zone is an area of water where boats must travel slowly to avoid making waves. Okay, so they're not supposed to make many waves, they need to go very slowly through the water on this zone. Once the boat passed through Biscayne Bay and went through the Rickenbacker Bridge, he entered open water. Yes, this one here in yellow, you are going to check. Okay? What does it mean to enter open water? Um, so again, once the boat passed through Biscayne Bay and went under the Rickenbacker Bridge, he entered open water. Rutledge increased the boat's speed to over 90 miles an hour and made up the time he lost on the Miami River, approximately 60 miles from the finish line. Rutledge was ahead of Adam and Tanner, but he had to stop for gas if he wanted to reach the finish line in Key West. In the 15 minutes it took to refuel the boat, Adam passed Rutledge in the car and took the lead. Once Rutledge was back on the open water, there were a lot of big waves, but he was able to pass Adam near 7 Mile Bridge just outside of Key West. Unfortunately for both Rutledge and Adam, Tanner flew over both of them in the seaplane at about the same time. Now Tanner was in the best position to win. Each racer was only miles from the finish line in Key West. Who would win? Hmm. Okay, so this was the first part about the Rutledge on the motorboat. Now, let's check on Adam in the car. Adam started off okay. He wasn't driving fast because he was going the speed limit. However, after an hour, Adam decided that he was going too slowly. He increased his speed to 75 miles an hour, 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. As Adam passed through his motel, he was stopped by the police. They were angry that Adam was speeding, and it meant that Adam lost many available minutes. Another problem Adam had was that his GPS was programmed to give directions in Spanish instead of English. This made finding his way to Key West difficult. As Adam finally approached Key West, the traffic was getting worse. He was worried about getting stuck, so he was worried about getting stuck so close to the finish line. Only 3 miles to go. Alright, so this was about Adam. And we have here two of these people. from the race. Okay. Now, question for you. Do you still think your prediction in 3A, your predictions in 3A are right about the fastest and about who we will ride first? Ta-na-na-na. Okay, so let's now make some suspense here. In C, you are going to read the two trips again and answer the questions with R for Rutledge and A for Adam. Let's go. Read again, pause the video, check your answers for activity C. You're finished? So let's check your answers here. So, uh, Rutledge went much faster in the later part of his trip. Okay, so it was Rutledge. In number 2, Adam did something illegal. Number 3, Adam went more slowly in the later part of his trip. Number 4, Rutledge had to stop for more gas. 5, Adam couldn't understand the directions spoken by the GPS. And 6, Rutledge was in the lead for most of the race. Okay? Alright, great. So now let's work on these highlighted verbs and verb phrases. What is the meaning of entered open water? Was ahead of and reach. So check this information, okay? Just this expression here, entered open water. This is when you go through the water, okay, and there are no obstacles. It's like an open entry to go through with your motorboat, for example, okay, with no obstacles. Was ahead of, it means he was first, okay, he was leading. And to reach the finish line is when you actually get to the line, you reach, you are close to it. All right, very well. You must be asking, okay, but what about the third person? What about Tanner in the seaplane? Let's go through him now. Okay, you will now listen to what happened to Tanner. Follow his route on the map. Remember that we have two pronunciations for this word, okay? We can say route or route. Both pronunciations are acceptable. Let's go. I am going, and remember, I'm going to play this audio here with no script. But remember that here the number of the script is 2.9. You can come here to your book in listening. Okay, you can look for the script here. 1.30. Oops, I'm sorry, I forgot. 2.9 actually. Okay, so look for 2.9. You will find this right here, page 124. Here we have the script of what we are going to follow now. Okay, very well, let's go. Listen first, try to listen and understand. Let's go through the map, go follow the map with him.
2.9.
Tanner took a taxi from the boatyard to the airport where the seaplane was leaving from. It took 45 minutes to get from the boatyard to the airport. Once he got on the seaplane, Tanner quickly made up the time he spent riding in the taxi. With the plane flying close to 100 miles an hour, Tanner caught up to Rutledge and Adam near 7 Mile Bridge. After landing at the airport in Key West, Tanner rented a scooter for the last 3 miles of the race. Just a few more minutes until he arrived at the southernmost point of the U.S.
Okay, so now you are going to write down here in letter F, you will write down the order in which you think the 3 people arrived. Now you are going to listen to what really happened. What order did they arrive in? Okay, let's go.
2.10.
Rutledge Wood, who had traveled in the boat, ran from the Key West boatyard to the streets of Key West. After running for a few minutes in the heat, he hailed a taxi, which brought him to the southernmost marker in Key West and the U.S. Unfortunately, Adam and Tanner were already standing next to the marker. Rutledge couldn't believe it. He looked at the other men who were standing nearby, laughing. It turns out that Adam, traveling in the Lotus Evora, had reached the Key West marker just seconds before Tanner arrived on his rented scooter. Adam's car had won, which is a good thing because Top Gear is, after all, a program about cars. Tanner's combination of taxi, seaplane, and scooter arrived second, several minutes before Rutledge, who ended his boat trip with a ride in a taxi.
Okay, so again, listen to the script. Check the script of the listening to make sure you understand, okay? So, what order did they arrive in? Were your guesses correct? Okay, so yes, we have here Adam in the car. He arrived first, and then Tanner, who arrived by taxi, who took the taxi, airplane, and scooter. And Rutledge was the last one by his on his motorboat. Okay. Okay, so like they said, this is a program about cars. Of course, the car had to win, right? All right. Now, this communication exercise, we're going to do this in our online class. I would just explain so you can get ready for it. I'm a tourist. Can you help me? This exercise has the intention to help you prepare to ask about touristic information in general, okay? So here you will think of the town or city where you are, or the nearest big town. You are a foreign tourist and you are planning to get around using public transportation. So you will be asking B questions from 1 through 5 to get as much information from the person as you can. So here we have some questions about transportation. What kind of public transportation is there? What's the best way for me to get around the city? Can I rent a bike? Are there any bicycle lanes? Is it easy to find taxis? How expensive are they? What's the best way to get to the airport from the center of town? How long does it take? Okay, so you will basically ask for this touristic information to one another. Okay, very good. So now let's move on to the next part of the lesson. Now we're going to focus on grammar here. In this grammar, we're going to work on comparatives and superlatives. So to start with, let's read the sentences. Are the highlighted phrases right or wrong? If they are right, you're going to check them. If they're wrong, you're going to write an X across, actually, okay, across, next to them, and obviously correct the wrong sentences. Let's go. Pause the video and check right or wrong and correct the sentences whenever necessary. Okay, you're right. You're done. So here we have the answers to our questions, okay? In sentence number 1, what's the quicker way to get around Miami? No, 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 that is not correct. We use here a comparative. Oh, sorry, a superlative, not comparative. What's the quickest way, okay, to get around Miami? Number 2, driving is more boring than going by train. This one is just fine, okay? Let me just put here to make it easier for you. In number 3, we have the boat was almost as fast than the bike. No way. This is a comparative of equality. They are in the same level, as fast as the bike. Okay. And number four we have West Hollywood is the same distance from Los Angeles as Southgate. So the same distance from Los Angeles as the same indicates equality as well. The same as. It's just right. In number 5, there aren't as much trains as there were before on this lane. Okay, so here SS is just fine because it's same level, but here uh, much, we don't use much with countable nouns, right? Here we rather use many. There aren't as many trains as there were before on this line. So it's incorrect. In number 6, it was the more exciting trip I've ever taken. If it is the more, I don't know, but more obviously it's not. Okay, it was the most exciting trip. In number 7, we have the worst time of day to travel in New York City is between 7:30 a.m. and 9:30 a.m. So the worst time, superlative, it's perfect. And number 8, women drive more careful than men. So I am talking about the way women drive. We can't use careful in this. We can't use careful. We can use careful here, okay? We need to use an adverb. Carefully. Carefully. Women drive more carefully than men. This is how they drive. It's adverb, okay? We can't use it. All right, so here now we are just going to go to grammar bank, so we can review what we have already learned about comparatives and superlative adjectives and adverbs. Okay. All right, to start with, we have some examples. Let's go through these examples. Please pause and repeat.
2.11. 1.
My sister is a little taller than me.
San Francisco is more expensive than Chicago.
This test is less difficult than the last one.
Olive oil is better for you than butter.
2. The new sofa isn't as comfortable as the old one.
I don't have as many books as I used to.
Okay, so let's start here with this one. Comparing to people, places, things, etc. Okay, in this first example, we have here comparative adjectives to compare to people, places, things, etc. Então, lembrando que os comparativos nós usamos para comparar sempre duas pessoas, dois lugares, duas coisas, mas sempre são duas, tá? Dois de alguma coisa. Aqui, só fazendo uma revisãozinha rápida, quando a gente tem, então, regular comparative adjectives, né? Então, os adjetivos comparativos que são regular, né? Regulares, são aqueles que vão seguir esta regra, tá? Eles seguem a regra. Então, lá, quando eles são curtinhos, a gente acrescenta, então, ER. Old fica older, big, bigger, easy, easier. Lembrando que quando Y é substantivo, desculpa, adjetivos curtinhos terminados em Y precedidos por consoante, tiramos o Y e acrescentamos IER, tá? Easier. Quando nós temos, então, adjetivos, né, que são aqueles long adjectives, nós não usamos o ER, nós precisamos usar o more, né, na frente deles. Então, vai ficar more modern, more difficult, tá? E assim por diante. Nós temos também os adjetivos comparativos que são irregulares, ou seja, eles têm uma forma própria, não seguindo essa regra. Então, é onde que good vai ficar better, bad, worse, farther or further. As duas formas estão corretas, tá? Farther ou further. E sobre aqui também adjetivos de uma única sílaba que terminam em ed, tá? A gente usa more também. Então, bored vai ficar more bored. Stressed, more stressed. Tired, more tired. Então, aqui a gente geralmente usa o more. E não usamos essa regrinha do ER. Ok? Muito bem. Então, aqui, ó. Now, in the example into as comfortable as many as, we can also use not, as plus adjective plus as to make comparisons. Então, nós também podemos usar essas frases na negativa, né? Usando as, um adjetivo, e as. No caso, como num nível igual. As duas coisas, né? As duas coisas que estão sendo comparadas, eles estão no mesmo nível, ali no nível de igualdade, tá? Então, after, then, or as, we can use an object pronoun. Me, him, her, etc. Or a subject pronoun, I, he, she, plus the auxiliary verb. O que aqui está falando é que nós precisamos usar pronomes objetos depois do as ou do then, tá? Por exemplo, aqui, ó, she's taller than. Então, eu quero falar do que eu. Ela é mais alta do que eu. She's taller than me. Se você for usar I, then I é obrigatório você fechar com o auxiliar, o verbo auxiliar ali. Then I am. Se fosse, por exemplo, um outro verbo sem ser o verbo to be. She plays soccer better than I do. Né? Então, como eu estou falando no presente, eu tenho que usar o verbo auxiliar do presente. Então, she plays soccer better than I do. Se fosse no passado, he used to play soccer better than I did. Ele jogava futebol melhor do que eu jogava. Better than I did. Ou better than me. Tá? Como vocês preferirem usar. They're not as busy as us. Né? Então, assim como eu uso o pronome objeto depois do than, eu também preciso usar um pronome objeto depois de as. They're not as busy as us. They're not as busy as we are. Tá? Então, sempre finalizar então com ou o pronome objeto, que nem aqui us, né? Ou we are, usar o pronome junto com o verbo to be ou com o verbo auxiliar, se for usar um outro verbo sem ser o verbo to be. The same as. We use the same as to say that two people, places, or things are identical. Her dress is the same as mine. Okay? O mesmo que o meu. The same as mine. Então, para falar que duas coisas são idênticas. Okay? All right. Now, moving on to next example. Please listen and repeat the examples.
2.12. 1.
My father drives faster than me.
You walk more quickly than I do.
Atlanta played worse today than last week.
2.
Max doesn't speak English as well as his wife does.
I don't earn as much as my boss.
Okay, so in these examples here, we're comparing two actions. And since we're talking about actions, we're going to use adverbs, not adjectives. Okay, so for example, my father drives. Here we have the verb faster than me. We are going to learn how to use now the comparatives with adverbs. So here, regular comparative adverbs, the spelling rules are very similar here. Começamos então aqui com a regra ortográfica, tá? Para quando a gente usa então os advérbios para comparar as ações. Então, aqui, para advérbios, então, curtinhos, né? Fast, faster. Slowly, vai virar, então, more slowly. Careful, more carefully. Então, aqui, quando a gente termina, o advérbio ele termina em ly, a gente pode manter o more, tá? More slowly and more carefully. Desculpa, só para deixar bem claro que aqui advérbios que são longos, lógico que vão seguir a regra, né? More carefully, slowly aqui só porque advérbios curtos, mas que terminam em y, a gente não faz a alteração, tá? Fica more slowly. Irregular comparatives, nós também temos os comparativos que são irregulares para advérbio, né? Então, well, de bem, fazer alguma coisa bem feito, então vai ficar better. E badly vai ficar worse, tá? We can also use not, not as, or with an adverb as to make comparisons. Então a gente também pode usar no mesmo exemplo que nem anterior que eu dei para vocês, que a gente pode usar com o advérbio também, tá? Que nem aqui, ó. Max doesn't speak English as well as, tão bem quanto, as well as his wife does, tão bem quanto sua esposa fala. I don't earn as much as my boss. Então eu não ganho tanto quanto o meu chefe. Tá bom? All right. These were the comparatives. Now let's go to superlatives. Important, I would like to state here too, sometimes we can find more than one form to use the comparatives for a word. It's common, for example, to find more slowly and slowlier, for example. Okay, it's common. So just attain to the form that is more used, more common. Superlatives. Então aqui os superlatives, lembrando que agora a comparação não é mais de duas coisas, mas passa a ser de uma pessoa para comparar com um grupo ou mais de duas pessoas, tá? Let's listen and repeat.
2.13.
Kevin is the tallest player on the team.
Tokyo is the most expensive city in the world.
The small bag is the least expensive.
Lucy is the best student in the class.
Who dresses the most stylishly in your family?
That's the worst we've ever played.
Okay, so we use superlative adjectives and adverbs to compare people, things, or actions with all of their group. Então aqui a gente vai usar os adjetivos e advérbios para comparar, né, pessoas, coisas e ações com todo o grupo, tá? Form superlatives like comparatives but we use est instead of er, and most or least instead of more and less. Aqui, então, para a gente formar o superlativo, assim como os comparativos, a gente também tem que acrescentar, só que ao invés de er, vamos acrescentar, então, est, tá? E vamos acrescentar também most e least, o mais e o menos, ao invés de more e less, ok? Que nem aqui, ó, nós temos the most expensive city, the least expensive, tá? We usually use the before superlatives, but you can also use possessive adjectives, like my best friend, their most famous song. Então aqui nós usamos o the junto com os adjetivos e os advérbios, né? Aqui, ó, the most stylishly, the worst, the best student. Mas é comum também usar my, his, their, tá? Por exemplo, he is my best student, né? Por exemplo, she is my best colleague at work, tá? Também é possível usar assim. We often use a superlative with present perfect plus ever. For example, the best book I've ever read. Isso aqui é uma coisa muito comum que acontece, de usar superlativo com present perfect, tá? Mas o ever. It's the best book. It's the worst day. It's been the worst day so far, né? Por exemplo. Tá? Então, vocês podem usar assim também. Attention. In after superlatives. Use in, not of, before places after a superlative. It's the longest bridge in the world, not of the world. It's the best beach in Florida, not of Florida. Ok? Então aqui, ó, isso é muito importante, tá? Ó, in the world, on the team. Of a gente usa somente para time, tá? Por exemplo, hoje é o dia mais frio do ano. Today is the coldest day of the year. Então, of eu uso com time. E in eu uso para lugares, para, né, grupos, tá? She is the best student in my class, por exemplo, tá? Mas of com o tempo. Perfect. Now we're going to do some exercises so we can practice. Complete, letter A, complete with the comparative or superlative of the bold word, and then, if necessary. Example, what's the fastest way to get around Miami? And here we have the adverb fast. Okay, so you're going to now pause the video and do the exercises. You're ready? Let's check your answers. Oops, no, this one. Okay, so let's go. This one here is not difficult, so let's try. Number 1, I think skiing, we have easy here, is easier than horseback riding. Number 2, a motorcycle is more powerful than a scooter. 3, I think that traveling by train is more relaxing. I think that traveling by train is the most relaxing form of transportation. 4, you walk more slowly than I do. 5, the worst time to travel is on holiday weekends. 6, the farthest or furthest time to travel is number 6. The farthest I've ever driven is from Washington, D.C. to Chicago. 7, the London Underground is older than the subway in New York City. This is the hottest bus I've ever been on. 9, all of my family, my mom is the best driver. Okay, now let's move on to exercises in letter B, complete with one word. Example, going by motorboat is more exciting than traveling by ferry. So please pause the video and do the exercises. So let's correct. Number 1, a bus isn't as comfortable as a train. Number 2, it's the most expensive car we've ever bought. 3, the traffic was worse than we expected. 4, this is the longest trip I've ever been on. 5, he gets home late, but his wife arrives later than him. 6, The most interesting place I've ever visited is Venice. 7. I leave home at the same time as my brother. 8. He drives more carefully than his girlfriend. He's never had an accident. 9. We don't go abroad as often as we used to. And 10. What's the longest freeway in the USA? All right. So please let me know if you have any questions about this grammar activity. All right. Now, going back to page 26, we have a pronunciation exercise. Pronunciation, linking. Now, we're going to learn how to make connections, okay? How to connect one word to the other. It is very important to learn this way because when a native English speaker is talking, for example, in a conversation, they always use that. So, to make sure you can understand them well, you need to learn how to use and identify them. Okay, so here are some cases where we usually link words. In the first one, for example, here, when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word begins with a vowel sound. So we have this example, more exciting. As we well know, we don't pronounce this letter E in more, more. So the last sound we pronounce here is a consonant sound, R, more. Okay? The next word exciting starts with a vowel sound, I, exciting. And we are going to link them. More exciting, more exciting. Okay. Another example of this is when a word ends in a consonant sound and the next word begins with the same consonant sound. Fastest ends in T and train starts with T. It's one sound. We will pronounce only one sound in here. So we say the fastest train, the fastest train. Okay? In 3, when a word ends in T or T, and the next word begins with T or D, we can make the connection. Okay? So T and D. The biggest dog, the biggest dog. You see, we don't pronounce the letter T here. The biggest dog. All right, we can make this connection as well. Do a link. All right, so now listen and repeat these sentences and try to link the marked words and copy the rhythm. Do this once, twice, 3 times, no matter. Practice until you think it is okay.
2.14. 1.
Riding a motorcycle is more exciting than driving.
2.
The fastest train only takes an hour and a half.
3.
It's more difficult to drive at night than during the day.
4.
My father's worse at driving than my mother.
5.
The most dangerous road in my town is the freeway.
Okay, so just to highlight here for you, we have here riding, the last sound here, and riding a motorcycle. Okay, motorcycle is more exciting. Can you see? More exciting than driving. The fastest train, the 2 letters, same sound. Train only, consonant, vowel sound, takes an hour. Here we have the consonant, vowel, and then the consonant and vowel sound because letter H is not pronounced. An hour, an hour and a half. You see, we can connect everything. Difficult to drive. It's more difficult to drive at night. Drive at night. Okay, consonant and vowel sound. Okay, all right. Now, this is what you are going to do. Talk to a partner. For each group of three things, compare them using the bold adjectives. For example, for one, decide which is the most dangerous and then compare the other two and say why. So here, for example, we have the word in bold, dangerous. Okay, and here we have riding a bike, riding a motorcycle, and driving. So you are going to compare them using these adjectives. So first you will decide which is the most dangerous. And then you compare the other two. For example, riding a bike, riding a motorcycle, and driving. In my opinion, in my personal opinion, riding a motorcycle is the most dangerous. And between driving and riding a bike, I think maybe riding a bike is more dangerous than driving. Oh, than driving. Yes, than driving. I think. Okay, so you will compare the one which is the most dangerous and then the two left out, you are going to compare using the comparatives. So here, which one do you think is the easiest? Learning to drive, learning to ride a bike, or learning to ride a horse? Which one do you think is the easiest? And now compare the other two left out. Okay, great. So we are going to do this practice in our online class. This is the example. I think riding a bike is the most dangerous because sometimes drivers don't notice bike riders. Riding a motorcycle is more dangerous than driving. So you are going to explain to say why you think it is the most dangerous, and then you compare the other two left out. Okay, great. Now moving on, we have a listening activity to do together now. In this listening activity, you are going corta. Okay, so now we're going to listening activity. A. Read a text and then talk to a partner. So let's start reading the text. So take a look here. We have two people driving. And here is the text. Which of these things is the most and the least dangerous when you're driving a car? So here, a car magazine tested drivers in a driving simulator. The drivers had to drive in the simulator and do the things in the list below. So here are the things they had to do: eating or drinking, talking on a cell phone, not hands-free, setting or adjusting a GPS, listening to your favorite music, listening to music you don't know, sending or receiving text messages, and doing your hair or putting on makeup. Okay, so just to make sure you understand, talking on a cell phone, not hands-free, it means that you are actually holding the cell phone, okay? Because you can, there are some cars you can, for example, just press a button and just talk to the person without actually using the holding the cell phone in your hands. So you are using your cell phone in one hand. Okay, do this one here. Which of these things do you or people you know do when you are driving? Which of these things have you seen people doing when they are driving? Okay, so which do you think are the most dangerous? Let's number 1 through 3. Remember that number 1 is the most dangerous and 3 the least dangerous. So come on, number them. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so which do you think is the least dangerous? All right, now we're going to listen to a safety expert. You are going to number the activities 1 through 7, and then see if your top 3 were correct. He's going to mention all of this, okay? All of these things here. You're going to number the order that they are going to say. Let's go.
2.15.
And on tonight's program, we talked to Tom Dixon, who is an expert on road safety. Tom, new technology like GPS devices has meant new distractions for drivers, hasn't it?
That's right, Nikki. But it isn't just technology that's the problem. Car drivers do a lot of other things while they're driving that are dangerous and that can cause accidents. Remember, driver distraction is the #1 cause of road accidents.
Now, I know you've been doing a lot of tests with simulators. According to your tests, what's the most dangerous thing to do when you're driving?
The tests we did in a simulator showed that the most dangerous thing to do while you're driving is to send or receive a text message. This is incredibly dangerous, and it is, of course, illegal. In fact, research done by the police shows that this is more dangerous than drinking and driving.
Why is that?
Well, the reason is obvious. Many people use 2 hands to text, one to hold the phone and the other to type, which means that they don't have their hands on the wheel, and they're looking at the phone, not at the road. Even for people who can text with one hand, it's still extremely dangerous. In the tests we did in the simulator, 2 of the drivers crashed while texting.
And which is the next most dangerous?
The next most dangerous thing is to set or adjust your GPS. This is extremely hazardous too, because although you can do it with one hand, you still have to take your eyes off the road for a few seconds.
And number 3?
Number 3 was putting on makeup or doing your hair. In fact, this is something that people often do, especially women, of course, when they stop at traffic lights. But if they haven't finished when the lights change, they often continue when they start driving again. It's that fatal combination of just having one hand on the steering wheel and looking in the mirror, not at the road.
And number 4?
In fourth place, there are two activities that are equally dangerous. One of them is making a phone call on a cell phone. Our research showed that when people talk on the phone, they drive more slowly, which can be just as dangerous as driving fast. But their control of the car gets worse because they're concentrating on the phone call and not on what's happening on the road. But the other thing, which is just as dangerous as talking on your cell phone, is eating and drinking. In fact, if you do this, you double your chance of having an accident because eating and drinking always involves taking at least one hand off the steering wheel. And the thing that's most worrying here is that people don't think of this as a dangerous activity at all, and it isn't even illegal.
And in 5th, well, actually 6th place, it must be listening to music, but what kind?
Well, it's listening to music you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
We found in our tests that when drivers were listening to music they knew and liked, they drove either faster or slower, depending on whether the music was fast or slow.
So fast music made drivers drive faster.
Exactly. And a study in Canada also found that if the music was very loud, then drivers' reaction time was 20% slower. If you are listening to very loud music, you're twice as likely to go through a red light.
So the safest of all the things on the list is to listen to music we don't know.
Exactly. If we don't know the music, then it doesn't distract us. In this part of the tests, all drivers drove safely.
Wow! Surprise, surprise! Okay, so please listen again if necessary. Okay, so now let's check here if your answers were correct. So, number 1, we have sending or receiving text messages. 2, setting or adjusting a GPS. 3, doing your hair or putting on makeup. 4, talking on cell phone. And eating or drinking. And 6, listening to your favorite music. And 7, listening to music you don't know. Okay, so this was the order that you were supposed to have here. Okay, so were your top 3 correct? Yes, no, any of them. Okay, all right, so now we are going to do something different. You're going to listen again, and this time you're going to get more information about each activity and why it is so dangerous. Okay, so I'm going to play once again the audio for you, and please try to take some notes. Okay, try to take some notes on the extra information.
2.15.
And on tonight's program, we talked to Tom Dixon, who is an expert on road safety. Tom, new technology like GPS devices has meant new distractions for drivers, hasn't it?
That's right, Nikki. But it isn't just technology that's the problem. Car drivers do a lot of other things while they're driving that are dangerous and that can cause accidents. Remember, driver distraction is the #1 cause of road accidents.
Now, I know you've been doing a lot of tests with simulators. According to your tests, what's the most dangerous thing to do when you're driving?
The tests we did in a simulator showed that the most dangerous thing to do while you're driving is to send or receive a text message. This is incredibly dangerous, and it is, of course, illegal. In fact, Research done by the police shows that this is more dangerous than drinking and driving.
Why is that?
Well, the reason is obvious. Many people use two hands to text, one to hold the phone and the other to type, which means that they don't have their hands on the wheel, and they're looking at the phone, not at the road. Even for people who can text with one hand, it's still extremely dangerous. In the tests we did in the simulator, 2 of the drivers crashed while texting.
And which is the next most dangerous?
The next most dangerous thing is to set or adjust your GPS. This is extremely hazardous too, because although you can do it with one hand, you still have to take your eyes off the road for a few seconds.
And number 3?
Number 3 was putting on makeup or doing your hair. In fact, this is something that people often do, especially women, of course, when they stop at traffic lights. But if they haven't finished when the lights change, they often continue when they start driving again. It's that fatal combination of just having one hand on the steering wheel and looking in the mirror, not at the road.
And number 4?
In 4th place, there are 2 activities that are equally dangerous. One of them is making a phone call on a cell phone. Our research showed that when people talk on the phone, they drive more slowly, which can be just as dangerous as driving fast. But their control of the car gets worse because they're concentrating on the phone call and not on what's happening on the road. But the other thing, which is just as dangerous as talking on your cell phone, is eating and drinking. In fact, if you do this, you double your chance of having an accident because eating and drinking always involves taking at least one hand off the steering wheel. And the thing that's most worrying here is that people don't think of this as a dangerous activity at all, and it isn't even illegal.
And in 5th, well, actually 6th place, it must be listening to music, but what kind?
Well, it's listening to music you know.
Oh, that's interesting.
We found in our tests that when drivers were listening to music they knew and liked, they drove either faster or slower, depending on whether the music was fast or slow.
So fast music made drivers drive faster.
Exactly. And a study in Canada also found that if the music was very loud, then drivers' reaction time was 20% slower. If you are listening to very loud music, you're twice as likely to go through a red light.
So the safest of all the things on the list is to listen to music we don't know.
Exactly. If we don't know the music, then it doesn't distract us. In this part of the tests, all drivers drove safely.
Okay, take your notes. Pause the video, take your notes. Let's check then your answers. So, let's see why they are dangerous. Okay, the extra information that we got. So in number 1, we have sending or receiving text messages. Many people use 2 hands and look at the phone, not on the road. This is why it is so dangerous. Setting or adjusting a GPS device. In this case, you use one hand and you take your eyes off the road. In number 3, doing your hair or putting on makeup. You use one hand and you look in the mirror, not at the road. In number 4, it's about talking on the phone, not hands-free. Your control of the car gets worse because you concentrate on the phone call and not on the road. Also, eating or drinking, you double your chances of having an accident because you only have one hand on the wheel. And 6, listening to your favorite song. If the music is fast, people drive fast. If the music's slow, they drive slowly. If the music is loud, your reaction time is reduced. And 7, listening to music you don't know. It is much less distracting and safer than listening to music you know. Wow, good, good. Okay, so here now, if you have any questions about vocabulary, please make sure to look up the words in the dictionary. Now we're going to move on to speaking activity. Look at the statements below and decide whether you agree or disagree. Whether is the same as if. Okay, look if you agree or disagree. Here we are using whether because you have two options. When you have two options, we use whether. If you have only one option, you use if. Okay? So decide whether you agree or not. Check the ones you agree with and put in next to the ones you disagree with. Think about your reasons. So here we have um, slow drivers cause more accidents than fast drivers. So do you agree? You think it is correct? Or do you disagree? You don't think it is true. So if you agree, you put a check. If you don't agree, you put a cross. And think of the reason why you think you don't agree. People who drink and drive should lose their driver's license for life. Speed cameras do not stop accidents. Drivers who are over 70 are as dangerous as young drivers. Bike riders should have to wear helmets. The minimum age for riding a motorcycle should be 25. The speed limit on freeways should be lower. Okay, so take a look and see if you think if you agree or if you don't agree with them, and think about the reasons why. This activity we're going to perform in our online class, okay? You're going to give your opinion about each statement and you will try to use expressions from this box. Like for example, when we agree and disagree, we can use I agree with this, or I agree with Juan. I don't agree. I don't agree with you, with Julie, with this. I think you're right. I don't think you're right. I think that's right. I don't think that's right. I completely agree. I totally disagree. Okay, so you can use these sentences here to agree or disagree. Um, Now we have a writing activity. This is an article for a magazine. You're going to write a magazine article about transportation in your town or city. Let's move on to page 115. Okay, here, this page 115. An article for a magazine. Look at the 4 forms of public transportation in New York City. Which one do you think is probably the least expensive? The healthiest? The best if you want to see the sights of New York City? The safest to use at night? So let's take a look here. These are the main transports here: the subway, double-decker bus, the bike, and a taxi. So please think of your answers to these questions. Okay, so now read an article from an old magazine for foreign students about public transportation in New York City and check your answers 2A. Let's see if you were right. Then answer these questions from memory. So let's go to the article to start with. MetroCard, transportation in New York. The subway. This is the quickest way to get around the city. and there are many subway stations all over New York City. The cheapest way to use the subway is to get a Metro card. This is like a phone card. You put money on it and you can add more when you need to. Then you use it every time you get the subway. You can buy Metro cards at subway stations, newsstands, and even from your employer. Buses. They can be quicker than the subway if there isn't too much traffic. The easiest way to use the buses like the subway is to just use your Metro card. You can buy a single ride ticket from machines, some but not all bus stops. You can also pay cash, but not pennies, and no paper money when you get the bus. Traveling a private double-decker bus is also a good way to see New York City. Bikes. Bikes are starting to become more popular in New York City, especially tourists and people who want to travel to parts of the city, like the waterfront areas, where subways don't usually go. One of the newest bike share programs is called City Bike. When you rent a bike from City Bike, you get a key that looks like a flash drive. You can use the key at any City Bike kiosk and get a bike to ride for the day. Taxis and car service. New York City's yellow taxis are expensive, but they are comfortable, and the taxi drivers know shortcuts through the city to get you to places quickly. You usually tell the driver where you want to go when you get the taxi. Car service is made up of normal cars that work for a company, and you have to call them ahead of time to pick you up. They are more expensive than taxis. Taxis and car drivers are probably the safest way to travel late night. Okay, so please read again more peacefully if necessary. Okay, and see. Was your answer to question A correct? Pause the video and check. Okay, so let's take a look at the answer. The least expensive is the subway. The healthiest, of course, is the bike. The best if you want to see New York City is the double-decker bus. The safest to use late at night is the taxi. Okay, so for the subway, here we have the questions. Oops, let me just take off them. In question B, we have here these three questions. What can you use? What can you use a Metro card for? Can you remember the answer? What kind of money do you have to use if you want to pay cash to ride a New York City bus? What's the difference between a taxi and a in-car service? So now let's check your answer. So for the subway and buses, this is what you use a Metro card for. In question number 2, okay, what kind of money do you have to use if you want to pay cash to ride a New York City bus? You need here cash, but no pennies and no paper money. And what is the difference between a taxi and car services? The car service is a normal car which works for a company and which you have to call. It is much cheaper than a taxi, probably a Uber car. Uh-huh. Okay. Excellent. Now, did you notice there are some gaps in the text? Read again the text and try to fill in the blanks with around, at, in, next to. On, you're going to use twice. On the top of, and with. Please pause the video and do it. Okay, so this is the order. In number 2, we have on, number 3, next to, number 4, on, 5, on the top of, 6, with, 7, in, and 8, at. Okay. Now, useful language for transportation in your town. You can buy metro cards at any places in New York City. You need a ticket or a card before you get on the subway. Make sure you get one beforehand. When we have the word you, it means people in general. Comparatives and superlatives. Buses aren't as quick as trains. Riding a bike is the cheapest way to get around New York City. Okay. Now you're going to write an article about transportation in your nearest town or city for foreign students. Plan what headings you're going to use and what to say about each form of transportation. Then, when you finish, you're going to check your article for mistakes, vocabulary, grammar, punctuation, spelling, okay? And then you're going to send me to my email so I can take a look at your article, okay? Let me know if you have any questions. All right, and to finish with, we have a song activity. It's called 500 miles. You are going to check here in your grammar bank, in your teacher's book. We have here the song 500 miles in teacher's book song. It's page 219. Okay, you're going to listen to each line of the song carefully. If you hear an extra word, you need to cross it out. If the line is correct, you're going to check. So here are the sentences, okay? And you're going to cross if they are not, if you didn't hear them, and check if it is just fine. Okay, here we have a glossary for the song, some facts about this song if you want to read, okay? And check out the words that you don't know. The audio of the song I will send you in a different attachment, okay? All right, now the class, the video class is over. You're going to the workbook, okay? And you're going to do the exercises. Race across Florida. So here we have vocabulary, pronunciation exercise, grammar, pronunciation, reading, and listening. Okay, I will play the audio for the listening activities. And if you have any questions about how to do the exercises, please let me know. I will play here then the pronunciation linking.
File 3A, Pronunciation. 1. The most relaxing way to travel is by train. 2.
The 7 hours in the airport was the least enjoyable part of the vacation.
3. The most interesting place to visit is the museum. 4.
Flying is a lot more expensive than going by bus.
5. They should have the party at their house. It's much bigger than ours. 6.
Scooters aren't as expensive as motorcycles.
Okay, and now the listening exercise. Listen to the experiences of 5 speakers who were doing dangerous things while they were driving. Match the speaker with the things they were doing.
File 3A. Listening. 1.
One morning last winter, I was driving to work late when my cell phone rang. I knew it was my boss, so I answered it. Suddenly, the van in front of me stopped because there was someone crossing the road. I was talking to my boss, so I reacted too late, and my car went into the back of the van. Luckily, I was driving really slowly at the time, so I didn't do much damage to the van, but the front of my car was a real mess. Since then, I never use my phone when I'm driving.
2.
I was driving to Colorado one summer to visit my parents, who live in Denver. It's a long trip, so I had taken my MP3 player with me to connect to the car radio. Surprisingly, there wasn't much traffic on the freeway, so I arrived in Denver pretty quickly. However, I was having such a good time listening to my music that I completely missed the exits for Denver. I didn't realize until I had gone another 20 miles, so I had to turn around and drive all the way back again. It just goes to show what can happen when you aren't concentrating.
3.
We were on vacation last year when we had a little accident. We were going somewhere we'd never been before, so we were following the instructions on my GPS. We heard on the radio that there'd been a big accident on one of the roads we needed to travel on, so I started adjusting my GPS to find a different road to take. I took my eyes off the road, and suddenly we came to a sharp turn in the road. I saw the turn too late, so I went straight ahead and drove into the middle of a field. We were really lucky, though, because no one was hurt.
4.
I don't usually get up early enough to put my makeup on, so I usually put it on in my car. Well, I used to put it on in the car. Now I wait until I get to my office. That's because I had kind of a shock the other week, when I almost didn't stop at a crosswalk. I was looking in the mirror instead of at the road, so I didn't see this little boy run out. To tell you the truth, I hadn't even seen that there was a crosswalk there. I just had time to step on the brakes, and I missed the little boy by about an inch. I was really shocked afterward, though.
5.
I was driving into town to meet my girlfriend for dinner when she sent me a text message. I decided to read it, in case it was important. Anyway, the message said that my girlfriend was already at the restaurant, and I wanted her to know that I was going to be a little late. So when I stopped at a red light, I started to write a reply. But I didn't notice when the traffic light turned green, and the car behind crashed into the back of me. The driver of the car said he thought I was going to start driving, so he moved forward and hit me. Of course, I didn't tell him I was texting.
Okay, so this is the audio for both activities from listening. Okay, the audio script is on page 70 in the workbook. Okay, if you guys need to get more information. Thank you. See you in our online class. Bye bye.